Welcome to Bootstrapped Unicorns. I'm your host, Josh Pies, and this is the show where scrappy founders, rebellious visionaries, and business misfits pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build something extraordinary from absolutely nothing. No trust fund, no fairy god investor, just grit, duct tape, caffeine, yeah, and that dream. We're talking about the wild, unfiltered ride of turning chaos into cash flow and ideas into impact. So buckle up. This is no Disney movie, but there might be some magic. Let's face it, even Elon started in a garage. So without further ado, let's get to the next episode. Welcome to Bootstrapped Unicorns, presented by C47 Digital Studios. Bootstrapped Unicorns, we are back. And yes, I am your host, Josh Pies. Haven't changed. It'll always be me. I am really glad you're here for another episode because we're going to dive into something today that is very near and dear to my heart. And we have an expert in here who will be able to unpack some stuff. I won't tip my hand, but we were off camera talking about it. And I'm just telling you, buckle up because this is really important to reframe your thinking if you do any marketing at all. At any level, towing the early marketing, pro marketing, I don't care where you're at, you've got to hear this whole conversation. Now, before I get too far into this, you know we're a sponsored show. Who sponsors Bootstrapped Unicorns? C47 Digital Studios, my business. That's right. So if you want to get into the podcasting space, or maybe you're already there and you were wishing you could do something more or different, you need an expert. You need a guide, and we can be that guide for you. If you want to learn a little bit and maybe pivot how you're doing things, I offer a free ebook on the makeitashow.com landing page. Just go there, you put your email in. Yes, I can say hi to you. And then you're going to get the free ebook. It'll reframe how you think about what you do. And it really unpacks what we do here. A lot of people read that and go, ooh, and they can go do it on their own. A lot of people go, ew, because it's too much. That's when you call us. And we can be your thinking partner. We can be your actual in the trenches partner, and we'll get you to the podcast level that you wish you were at. Now, I've got my new friend Jeff here. Jeff Greenfield is the founder of Provalytics. Provalytics is a company that actually, there's an Italian root to the name that he's going to explain in just a second. And I love the spirit behind his business. So without further ado, Jeff, welcome to the show. And thank you for being here, man.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Josh. It's a pleasure. And you're right. Provalytics, prova means proof. And that's what we're about, proving that what you're doing is actually working when it comes to marketing. That's one of the hardest things that marketers have, is being able to prove, hey, this is working, especially with finance. Give me more money so I can do more of this. That's really what it comes down to.
So who's looking at the analytics that you're providing then? Is it the finance people? Is it the marketing people? Do you help them hang out with each other and speak to each other? How's that work?
Yeah, that's exactly what we do, because one of the biggest issues today that marketers are facing is they have multiple versions of the truth, because some folks are pulling data from like Google Analytics 4, or some people are pulling data from Meta. And the more platforms they're on, the more jumbled their numbers are. So when they go in to meet with finance, they're kind of laughed out of the office. So what we do is we create a single source of truth across all of their media, their paid media, their owned media, their earned media. We even bring in things like PR, so they can actually have a realistic discussion with finance so that their numbers will match what finance has. And then they can prove what they're doing is actually working and walk out with a big check like they're on one of those game shows, and go and increase the ROI significantly.
So I like the idea of putting money where you're seeing ROI and stopping spending where you're not seeing ROI. Is there an element to Provalytics where you're able to look at trends, either, hour over hour, month over month, year over year, where you can say, oh, this is starting to work. Oh, this is falling off. How, from the marketer perspective, I'm not the finance guy. I'm curious how to get better at my job from a performance perspective. Is there data in there that could help me think that through?
Absolutely, because it goes down to a very granular tactical level, not just at like a channel, not just like Google search, but our data goes all the way down to the creative level. So you can look at things through different dimensions, see how things are trending. One of the things that's really important is that sometimes your consumers or the people that you're marketing to get tired of your creative. It gets stale, and you can start to see, hey, it's not working as well as it used to. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is maybe it's time to refresh the creative. Also, maybe you're spending the same amount of money and the cost of delivery of those ads has doubled. And we've seen that happen a lot, especially with lower funnel tactics like Google search or even Meta. And there's now a trend where marketers are starting to go more upper funnel, because the more aware people are of your brand, when they get down to be ready to make a decision, they're like, oh yeah, I know those guys. I'm going to buy from them. And that's a whole idea behind marketing, is that you don't want to just go after the people that are in market today. You want to anticipate and start sprinkling things around a little bit, filling people's heads with ideas that, hey, maybe we're the folks that you should be buying from.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I think that's one of the things that's always frustrated me as a marketer, is the idea that what works today might not work tomorrow. And, I think we've all been guilty of going on gut, where you go, ooh, I feel like this is falling off and I'm afraid to turn it off because it worked for so long. And so feel like and afraid feel unsafe to me in the long run. And it seems like you're able to go, your feelings are or are not accurate, and your fears are or are not founded. And now we can make real decisions.
Yeah. And I'll give you a great example of that. Let's say, Josh, that you've created, because you're down there in Orlando, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir.
And let's say you created this amazing new garden hose, one that doesn't leak. And so you've got a great video of it. You guys film it there and you start running ads. Let's say you're running ads on Hulu. You're running ads on Meta, and you're running ads on Google. So when people search the name of it, they'll actually be able to find it. So someone's watching something, some streaming, they see the ad on Hulu. They just notice it. It just plays, but they notice it in their head. Week or two later, they're on Facebook scrolling through their feed. They see it again. They hover over it for a couple seconds, don't do anything. 2 weeks later, they're on Instagram. They see the video again, and now they watch the whole thing, and they're like, okay, this thing's really cool. When my hose leaks, I'm going to get this. And then 2 weeks later, they're out gardening. They turn their hose on, it busts, and they're like, oh my God, I should have gotten that hose. What is the name of that? They pull out their phone and they type in the name of the hose into Google, and they purchase it and buy. Now multiply that by 1,000 times over the end of the month. When you look in your analytics, Google Analytics 4, you're going to see that all of these sales came from Google, and you're not going to see anything in there from Hulu or Meta. And you're going to be like, that money was wasted. So you stop spending on Hulu, you stop spending on Meta, and you put all your money into Google. Now, since that journey took like over a month, well, the day you do it, you're not going to notice a difference. It's going to take about a month until you start to see sales decline. And even though you didn't make that decision based on gut, you made it based on data, it still was not the right decision. And what we're talking about in terms of marketers is that you can't get inside of people's heads to figure out exactly what they did. What you want to do as a marketer is you want to be less wrong every month. That's the attitude to have, because this market is moving so fast. It's like a boxing match. You have to constantly bob and weave in order to stay ahead. And you have to have one foot in the present and another foot in the future so you can anticipate what's coming next. But you have to make sure that you're being less wrong than you were yesterday. That's the most important thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I like that. Iterating towards greatness is something that I've always tried to do, and you're describing an opportunity to actually iterate towards greatness. That's awesome. So, this is a hot takes episode. This is one of my rapid fire hot takes. We're going to not go Joe Rogan 4 hours. We're going fast on something, and you actually came with a pretty great hot take. What was that?
The hot take is that the marketer's playbook is completely broken. That's the big hot take.
All right, but I'm slightly offended. I am a marketer, and apparently my playbook is broken. What's going on?
Well, what's going on is that things change. I mean, listen, I get how it is as marketers. You start working at one company, you build up experience, you get expertise in these different platforms, and you work your way up, and you go from one company to the next, and you put your playbook in place, and it keeps working. But we're now in this world of such rapid innovation that things have shifted so quickly just in the last year, if you will, that your playbook, you got to throw it out. And the best example of that is that most marketers know that to really build a brand, to really get some name awareness out there, you have to go on TV. Okay. Whether it's TV or streaming, you got to be out there. You got to put out tons and millions, if not billions, of media impressions so that people start to recognize your name in order to build a brand. Well, for the last 8 months in a row here in the US, the number one television network is YouTube. Now
Come
we're
on,
not.
wait, hold on. It's not Netflix. It's not Hulu.
No, it's YouTube. And we're not talking people watching it on their phone or on their computer. We're talking on the big screen. So there's more
I will
people.
tell you, all of my kids tee up YouTube at home. So I can attest to the idea that this feels accurate.
Right. But here's the issue though. So marketers are spending more money on YouTube. But traditionally they're spending still more on linear and cable. Those dollars need to start shifting over to where people are viewing, which is YouTube. But here's the problem. The problem is that the way you buy YouTube is through Google Ads, which is how you buy Google Search. It's how you buy Google Display, which means for most marketers, the people that are actually doing your YouTube TV buy are search marketers. What do search marketers know about television? Nothing. So, and can they physically do it? Yes, they can. But my point is that there's a mentality to buying TV. There's a mentality to doing upper funnel type work that needs to go into buying television. So anybody who's spending dollars in the upper funnel on YouTube, you need to actually find out who is turning the dials at your agency, because they need to bring in some television expertise, because that's what it is today. It's not YouTube, it's TV. You also need to get an awareness of what channels are you running in. A lot of marketers are really upset when they pull out their analytics at the end of the month and they realize, they're going for awareness. So they're going for lots of views. And then it turns out that most of the shows that they're on and the channels are on are for like kids 10 to 12 years of age, because those kids tend to watch hours upon hours, but that's not their demographic. And what we're finding is that greater than half of all of the impressions, all of the ads that are running on YouTube are running on channels that are just not in the right direction. It's like you're buying the wrong TV shows essentially. And that's a tough thing because it's so fragmented there, but you need to have that mentality when you're going in, like, what shows do I want to be on?
That's fascinating that you bring that up. I've had this experience because I've got a 7-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 16-year-old. And when they sit down to watch something together, which that's quite a broad range, it turns into maybe watching something like a Mark Rober on I don't know if you know him, but he's, he's a NASA scientist turned kid engineer, does all the squirrel. Have you seen the squirrel maze? Love this guy. So my kids are watching something from Mark Rober and a commercial comes on, and it was during the Halloween season last year. So at that point, Will was 6. And it's this jump scare to a frightening clown with like fangs. And it was clearly an oops buy. It should never have happened that way, in my opinion. Maybe they're targeting him that young, but it was one of those moments where I'm like, clearly somebody got the buy wrong, or there's a misunderstanding of the ad placement. And it makes me wonder, not only is there a misunderstanding from like, you got your SEO guy placing ads, but I wonder if, because YouTube does have suggested next videos and there is the, on the platform, you got that sidebar with the, related videos that can be a little bit algorithm-y, where they're all over the place. And you got SEO guys who have been placing it. There is an element where it is SEO based on the suggestions. So is there like a new practice group that needs to be invented for this new playbook where they understand both sides pretty intimately?
Well, I think what it really comes down to is that instead of just executing a YouTube buy, most marketers need to step back like P&G did a number of years ago, where they realized that there was a lot of fraud. And I'm not talking about fraud on YouTube, but they realized there was a lot of fraud. And they looked at where all of their ads were being displayed, and they found it was being displayed across millions upon millions of websites. So what they did is that they went through and they chose like the top 1,000 websites, and they only ran ads on those websites, and they literally cut their ad spend in half. And what happened? Sales actually went up. So
wow.
You just have to be selective about where you are. And I think that buying YouTube is not the same as buying search. You need to step back, look at where the popular channels are, what are the type of shows that you would like to be featured in versus just having a team just execute a buy for more video views. And that's the issue with YouTube, is that it is so fragmented. And if you just go in and buy it, you're going to get garbage. But if you take your time and really focus on high level quality programming that's right in your demographic, it's going to kill for you. It's going to do wonderful.
So can Provalytics help us make better decisions on this topic?
Provalytics can help you make better decisions on this topic. Provalytics can also help you figure out what creative is working and where it's working at, but not only on a YouTube, but also on a cross-channel, cross-platform basis. So we can tell you how to move money from one channel to another, how to optimize within a channel. We can tell you how YouTube is driving sales on your website, driving sales in retail, and driving sales in marketplaces like Amazon or even Walmart.com. So we can look at that entire mix and figure out for you what's working, what's not working, how to take your existing budget to boost your ROI. And then when you're lucky enough to have more budget, we can tell you precisely where to put it at. And then also tell you when you do that, this is going to be the increase in sales that you get as a result.
Wow. Okay. So friends, marketers, countrymen, lend me your ears. This is something you got to actually really seriously consider, folks. I mean, you're following Bootstrapped Unicorns because you are in business, or intending to be in business, and you are going to be spending money on marketing, and you really owe it to yourself to get it right. So you've got to consider this as a viable option for you to really evaluate what you're doing. Hey, Jeff, what's the ideal business size? Because I would venture a guess that a solopreneur who's just starting out in their basement, and if they're up in the north, or if they're down here in Florida with no basements, out of their garage, might not be able to afford this at their first pass. What size company is the right company to start going, ooh, now it's time to start entertaining Provalytics?
Companies that are spending $5 million or more per year in marketing, that's an ideal candidate, and up from there. But I'll give the solo entrepreneurs a little tidbit on what they can do, kind of a DIY method.
Ooh,
as another quick takeaway, if you will. Most marketers, when they start buying ads, they look at clicks, because they think that they look at a sale and then they go backwards. What came right before that was a click. And so then they make decisions on where to invest based upon clicks, in that example that we gave with the garden hose.
Right.
But the reality is that the way marketing works is we invest dollars to buy eyeballs, to get attention. That attention leads to awareness. And when awareness is built up to a certain enough level, people will walk into our store. If our store happens to be online, that's clicks. So we want to make decisions at that eyeball level. And when you pull down your analytics from Meta or from Google, that's called impression. And so what you want to do is track your impressions every day and look for a correlation every day between impressions and clicks. You'll notice a delay. One day you'll have large impressions, clicks will be about the same, and it may be a delay of a couple of days or a couple of weeks even, but you want to go back to those impressions that are correlated to those clicks and do more of that stuff. That's what you want to do. So focus on impressions, not clicks. It's impressions is where you want to base your decisions around.
Well, we continue to be in the attention economy. You know, you make your money with the eyeballs, for certain. In fact, actually, I don't carry a business card anymore, but my old business card had my two titles. One of them chief attention getter, one of them hippie capitalist. I'm still keeping the hippie capitalist one. I think that's my favorite. But you know, attention is literally becoming currency at this point. And thank you for bringing that down to a lesson that anybody can use, because most of the world, frankly, isn't spending $5 million a year. There's some awesome businesses that are, but our listenership probably, I don't know. I would have to try to figure out that mix, but I'll bet only a handful are your ideal candidate for Provalytics, but there's a lot of them who needed that tip. So thank you. That was clutch. How do we learn more? How do we listen to you as a thought leader? Because this was actually a really important conversation. Are you podcasting, blogging, vlogging? How do we learn more from you?
There's two ways. One is you can go to provalytics.com. Best way to get there is go to Get Prova, like Get Proof, GETPROVA.com. On there, there's a resources section. We actually have a free attribution certification course. It kind of goes through the whole history of marketing, like what happened in the past, what's going on now. We find that helps marketers set a good foundation so that you can actually see around corners to see what's coming next. And then find me on YouTube. I'm always putting out at least 3 times a week new content on YouTube. On LinkedIn. On LinkedIn is where the main place that I'm putting on content.
Good.
So definitely.
All right,
there.
cool. And will you accept LinkedIn requests from randoms, or do we just need to follow you?
Absolutely, 1,000%.
All right. I don't know if you and I are LinkedIn yet, but we're going to be by the end of the day.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jeff. I think this is awesome. A final question is, I know you've been in this space a lot. I'm just a little bit curious. You've spent so much time in data analytics around marketing. I know when I was growing up, I didn't want to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a baseball player, and here I am having a blast being a communications and marketing expert. So I don't regret anything, but I didn't grow up this way. At what point did you find yourself getting fascinated by this, and why have you just dug so deep into it? I'm glad you did.
Well, I was a marketer back in the early 2000s. That's what I really loved to do. And, I had a client that was facing this issue of what we call overcounting. You have 1,000 sales a day, but you add up the numbers and they add up to 8,000 a day. And I built a solution back then to solve it that ended up morphing into one of my first startups, C3 Metrics. And I did not think, to be honest, that this numbers game was sexy at all, because it's just, it's not, okay? It's
fair.
A lot of spreadsheets and things like that. Marketing, to me, coming up with the big ideas, that was sexy. But now that I've been in this space full time since 2007, 2008, it's actually very sexy, because I get to see what some of the top marketers in the world are planning, what they're executing, and how it's actually performing. And that is fascinating. And what's even more fascinating is I get to have conversations with some of the top marketers in the world and help them shape kind of their next best decisions, if you will. Because I get to see everything. And that's a sexy seat to be in.
That is really cool, actually. I'm geeking out right now on this. Tapping into the brilliant minds of this world is a privilege. And the fact that you've got that privilege on the regular, and it sounds like you're kind of getting paid for the interactions too, to a certain degree, which is even cooler. I like your job. That's a good job. That's cool.
Thank you, Josh. I love it too.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thank you again. We're going to link in later today. World, go and learn more about Provalytics. Go take his course. The fact that he's offering it for free, even if you're a well-heeled marketer, you're going to learn something, and you learn something new every day. Go take that course, sign up, and yes, you and I know he's going to have your email, and that's an awesome thing when you've got somebody who's an expert like that. That's why I get your email too, so I can share information, and we all get to hang out together in this hippie capitalist lifestyle. So thank you for being on Bootstrapped Unicorns. This has been another Hot Takes episode. As you know, audience, we do this for you so that you can grow a little bit today in a new direction and a better direction for your business. Your business practice deserves the attention you're giving it. But I got to implore you right now, after you make sure you subscribe and also find him on LinkedIn, you have to get back to work.